we're thrilled that you're here. This is our work. We think that you should be doing evaluation. We think that you should be part of gathering information and using it for change. So what we want you to do is, without overthinking it, write really big across the middle of the paper, just what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the term evaluation? Don't overthink it, just what's the first word that comes to your mind when you think of evaluation? Everybody got something? Okay. Take your word with you, and so what you want to do is meet somebody, explain your word, kind of why you picked it, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Becca.
Hi, I'm Donnie.
Nice to meet you. I like your necklace. You're welcome. So what's your word?
Judgment.
Ooh, what does that come from?
I think it comes from, I don't feel like evaluations are, lately, I don't feel like they've been evaluations, they've pretty much been judgment. Probably a preconceived notion of who I am, and then when it comes to actually knowing me, it's hard because you've already came up with these stereotypes or whatever. So it's hard to evaluate me clearly when you've already
You've already made up your stuff.
So,
I like it. I said grants because I've taken a lot of classes where they talk about, like, in order to get money for your organization and to get grants, you need to have a clear evaluation plan. So I always think of like grant making and writing grants when I think of evaluation.
Okay.
So
I wrote down tests. So I guess evaluation is a test.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about, or the ACTs coming up has been an issue with some programs. Just the timing.
Oh.
Yeah, because we're trying to organize things that are happening during the school day, and people don't want to miss school. But the ACTs are
Right.
What's you guys?
It's like a whole lot of stress.
Yeah, it's very stressful.
All right.
Gather around.
Everybody's ready? Yeah, so come on up. Okay. Just take a minute to look at the words and reactions, thoughts.
No one seems to like evaluation.
No one seems to like evaluation. Yeah, James.
I see judgment a couple times. I think, like, my first negative reaction is negative because judging is usually associated with, like, I'm judging you in a negative way, you know?
Mm-hmm. Who were some of the other people that put judgment? There's a couple. Okay, you want to say more about what, anything additional that was, coming to your mind when you wrote down a judgment on your piece of paper?
I chose judgment because before an evaluation, they have to have something to evaluate. And I think that before you get an evaluation, people have already made their preconceived notions about who you are. So it's kind of like people just kind of go by the first thing they see, and then the evaluations aren't really taken seriously because they're already been judged.
Okay. Harper?
I don't think evaluations tend to be much fun based on all this. Like, it's just boring and stuff like that. I mean, I think if things are a little bit more intriguing, people tend to enjoy doing them better, therefore might take them a little bit more, I don't know, necessarily seriously, but might not just be circling random things because I just want to get this done. So, I mean, I think if evaluations were a little bit more, I don't want to make it sound like, yes, let's have background music and stuff, but I mean, a little bit less, less boring.
You guys? Okay. Is there any? Okay, so we've got a general theme about the judgment, boring, kind of negative connotation. Is there any word that somebody has a question about? Who put product up? Kevin, you want to say a word about what you were thinking?
I just put it there because it seems like, you do this thing, whatever it is that you're doing, and then you have to, the evaluation is a part of producing the final outcome of whatever thing that you were doing, and so to me it just kind of feels like a product, or part of the end product.
So something that kind of comes at the end and you finish it up.
I don't think it's evaluation is boring at all. I think because I love to get constructive criticism. I do a lot of artwork and stuff, and it really just helps me improve. So I think evaluation is sort of the equivalent for businesses and such. And I think you need to be able to critically analyze information you see.
So a couple of things just to kind of think about when we're looking at the word. So when we do this activity, this is pretty much what we get, right? And Barry mentioned it even earlier today, right? That most of the time when especially young people are part of, you're evaluated all the time, just as Donnie was saying, there's always a sense of preconceived notions or judgments that are being made. Oftentimes, evaluation in schools is tests, which aren't fun, and rank us or tell us we're good or we're not good, or on some kind of measure that we didn't get to participate in developing, right? It's a structure that doesn't work for you. You don't see it as being helpful. You don't see it as being something that you could use. One of the things that we think is so exciting about youth-driven evaluation, youth participatory evaluation, youth involvement in evaluation, whatever term you want to use it, is that you all could decide what information you want to get. You all could decide how you want to use it, how creative you want to be, and to think about that, not to allow your voices to speak through your evaluation. There's such power when your voices and your ideas and your information that you gathered from your peers can be shared with stakeholders, policymakers, program staff. That's when this process becomes something that's from boring and from just something we do at the end, or something that we have to do, or something that's judgment, to something that's about power, that's about ongoing, that's about your voice, that's about action. And so we want you to start to think about how you could redefine evaluation. I'm wondering kind of what you're thinking about, and if we just opened it up to kind of just general brainstorming about ways you could imagine people could be involved in evaluation, either in your own communities or in your schools, or that maybe you've already been in evaluation, and we could just start to brainstorm a list. Anybody have some basic ideas just to get us going?
I found that like a lot of the evaluation processes that I've seen, I feel have been like really inauthentic and like not true to what the program you were evaluating is. And so it kind of like produces something that is absent of like what in like the work that we do is really valued, which is kind of like a more personal aspect to it. And so I guess perhaps a possible way that you could go about evaluating will be like when we come in, perhaps there could be like a video interview between like an outgoing intern and that intern with a set group of questions that the outgoing interns have come up with that we think would characterize the state that the person is in before going through the process. And then like after the internship, there's like another one, and then we can put those together to see how they've changed. And I think like something like that will probably be a more authentic way of evaluating the effectiveness of a program like ours.
Other ideas that people have for changing up evaluation, making it less boring or less judgmental?
I think a lot of times evaluations are done, it's kind of like a one-shot deal, and if you get it right, then something good happens, and if you mess it up, then something bad happens, as opposed to it being like a step in a continual development process. And so I think it's important to, do something constructive with an evaluation and set it up in a way that allows there to be a success, that can actually have an impact on something.
Yeah. So we often talk about that as kind of thinking about how evaluation just gets embedded in, so it becomes kind of an ongoing part of your work. And also thinking about how the idea of taking action, right? So often evaluations, you spend all this time gathering information, or people do, and then you write it up, and then it gets put on a shelf, or I don't know where it goes, but you never look at it, and it certainly doesn't ever get used. And then you kind of, it gets into that kind of, or it gets used negatively, but it never usually gets used positively.
Either evaluations that I've at least done in the past are either taken way too seriously or just kind of like a blow-off kind of thing. So I don't know of like a way to like make them, it's not like you have to put like this exact answer. It's your opinion, but I just think that either a way for people to take it seriously, or just like not have to think that, it's just an evaluation, they're not going to use it, because if people think of it that way, then I don't think it's going to be very effective.
Making it not so much life or death issue, but more so a learning issue. Like if I did bad, okay, don't just say, oh, you did bad. Just say, I did bad, and here's how I can improve.
So reframing evaluation in ways that allow people to see it as something that's about learning, about action, about change, and not this kind of life or death kind of approach.
I use media as a form to document things, so that's a way to make it a little bit more exciting. So doing interviews with people, like documenting it that way, photography, through poetry and things like that, and then putting that all together and assessing it, and just going through like the interviews and like what are the common things that we saw, what are some issues that people kept bringing up. And then from there, like one of the projects, we created a video just around education. So people kept saying, like, we just went out and asked people, like, what are the issues in your community? And from going back and reviewing the interviews, people were like, education, that kept coming up. So it was like, we need to explore this some more. And so we just made a short documentary about what can be done to make education better. So that's a different way of documenting. It's not like a test where you got to answer some questions and things like that, but it's a different way.
Sometimes we evaluate each other, like, because it is like youth kind of like led. It's good to hear like from our peers because we do work together, and it's not sometimes when you're in an organization where it's youth and then we're an adult is kind of like taking the lead and guiding us. It kind of becomes like a competition between the kids, like, well, I want to be the one that stays after evaluation. So we kind of like evaluate each other so that we can work better as a team because we are a team. Like without each other, it would just be it wouldn't be really youth led. It just so happened we have a youth part of our internship. It wouldn't be, youth orientated. So I think that's a good idea. Just having peer evaluations, having us like evaluate each other.
One of the things that that always comes out when we start to have this conversation is that you all are doing evaluation all the time. You are both evaluated in ways you don't like, but you're also using evaluation all the time in ways that are really productive. And so part of it is just recognizing that this is all part of evaluation, and then thinking more systematically about how do you build a plan where you can use peer evaluations, self-evaluations, video documentation, as a way to move forward your program and move forward your issues and move forward your work and start to think about it as an evaluation strategy. And when you start to think about it systematically as an ongoing part of your work, so it's not just that we do this over here and we do this over here, but it's as a kind of a comprehensive set of activities that are ongoing, that are owned by young people, that are authentic in their process, as part of your evaluation, then it just starts to become a tool for you to continually learn about what you're doing and then to use it to strengthen your work. One thing you might think about is, could you form an evaluation team? And you don't need a lot of people to form a team. It's just a few. Could there be a core group within your organization that says, we're gonna take the lead as the evaluators, and we're gonna think about what we already do and what else we could do and help to take move it forward. How many of you do debriefs as regular parts of your work? Right? Do you ever write them down? So writing them down and then looking at them and saying, okay, well, what can we learn from this debrief to make our meeting go better the next time? Right? So as simple as kind of just a general debrief, but recording it, looking at it, and then using it. Right? So as long as we're always thinking about what are we doing, how well did it go, and how can we improve the next time we're doing evaluation. This video idea, is just an interesting video and media. Thinking about how that then can be a tool for getting additional grants or being able to build. You just did that. Do you want to talk about what you did?
At different points throughout the internship, just have one person or a pair of people sit down and just talk about their experiences so far. And then I edited all those things into like a video to talk about what the program does.
And then where have you used it, or how are you thinking about using it?
So we just put it on YouTube a little while ago, and so far we have distributed it through some of our social media outlets. And we're also, I think, going to put it, maybe synthesize it a little bit or change up some of the order of it and put it on a DVD, and then our fundraising team at our organization will take it out and show it to people, and it'll probably get sent out like in our newsletter and stuff like that.
That's so cool.
And it actually worked out really well because I mean the video is somewhere around 7 minutes long, and the first like 30 seconds of it was an intro that I created, you know, just a very brief intro with a very limited explanation of what we do, and then the rest of the explanation of the program and the impact that it has is completely from just what people were naturally saying. So.
One of the years they did a video evaluation, not dissimilar from what you're talking about, where young people asked other young people a series of questions, and they videotaped it, and then they clipped them together so you could talk about kind of what were the impacts from the program from the young people's perspective. And then that video got shown not only back to the participants and to program staff, but then got used to I think it's been shown to other groups that were thinking about trying to implement their own program. And it's kind of had a trajectory of its own. I think there's a lot of different ways to think about evaluation. There's no one right way to do it. What we hope that you're starting to see is that this can be something that you can do, you should do, you already do, and that to transform it from something that's awful, that you hate. So do something that's useful for you. Think about what you want to know and how you want to approach it, and go out and do it. And when it's you guys coming up with the ideas and generating the process, then it's going to be authentic. It won't be narrow, because it'll be what you want to find out. And it will be used, and it will be used in a way that's going to be helpful. You can start small. There's no one right way. I think we just would encourage you to try something, to keep moving forward your ideas, and then creating the forum to help share with one another. Because I think it's, again, when we find, just like we did in the beginning, people think that evaluation usually sucks. But then when we actually talk about it, you're doing it all the time. So how do you reclaim that word? Think about it as something useful, and then share your evaluation strategies with other young people. Because think about what the region would do if we knew more about the power of what your work is doing, what you're learning from it from your perspective, not from our perspective, and that could help to drive better programming.
I came in here thinking that, evaluation as we think about it is often really inauthentic, but the things that are evaluation that we don't always call evaluation are the things that are perhaps most important and most authentic in the whole process.
Being able to evaluate other people is hard, because without putting a judgment on other people. So I think the media part of it I can take back to the organization, because it's a good way to have people involved in what you're doing. Like using the media to release good videos of people evaluating is a good way to help people learn about good evaluation without judging.